Am I echoing? One second. How am I now? Okay. Hi, everyone. We are very excited to go from ice cold to super red hot today and talk about some pipeline and growth tactics. I am in New York and I'm really sick of the cold weather. It's that time of year where it's deceivingly hot outside because it's like sunny, but it's actually 30 degrees. I would say deceivingly cold. So I'm in need of some cheering up. So Chris and Christelle, I want to hear your summer plans. What are you most excited to do this summer? Chris, let's start with you.
Oh man, we've got to work in a couple beach trips in there somewhere. But I've actually started a new hobby recently that I'm excited to explore a little bit more in the warmer weather. So I picked up paragliding recently.
Ooh, okay.
So essentially, yeah, jumping off the side of a cliff with a parachute on. And so, as you can imagine, it's kind of tough to do in the cold weather. So I'm excited to
Yes.
explore that a little bit more here in the summer.
Okay, that's very cool. I don't know about the second thing, but the beach I'm very into. I think that's sounds a little more safe for me. Christelle, what about you?
Yeah, I'm very excited for the warm weather. I'm in Boston and it is freezing every day. But most excited for traveling. My sister's getting married this summer in Lebanon, which is going to be an exciting trip for us.
Oh, wow. Are you the maid of honor?
I am.
Oh, okay. Love to see it. Weddings, beaches. This content is going to be on par, I think, of both of those things. Today's event is hosted by the team at Modern Sales Pros, where I maybe someday will be the pros in like wedding beaches. We combine the two. But right now, we are the world's revenue leadership community, the world's largest revenue leadership community for those in sales management, sales and rev ops, sales development, and related supporting disciplines. And our mission is to create an environment for our 20,000 and constantly growing members to answer questions they might struggle to answer on their own and to help them see around corners they might not even know about. And we do that through great live sessions like the one you're at today. We do that through a robust online forum with all of our amazing members and hopefully soon in-person events. Hopefully we'll get there. But enough about MSP. Today's event is sponsored by the amazing team at Chorus Info. Christelle, I'm going to pass to you to talk about Chorus.
Yeah, Chorus is in the conversation intelligence space. It's a sales effectiveness platform that sheds a light on sales conversations and all customer-facing calls. It records your sales team's engagements to just overall give you improved forecast accuracy as well as just overall exposure into your top reps' best practices.
Awesome. Wow, that was so succinct. I love it. Jenny's going to be proud of that. I knew it. Well, we've got some really great folks here. Christelle, I'd love for you to introduce yourself before we get into the tactics here on pipeline growth.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Christelle Asacker. I am a sales development manager at Chorus ZoomInfo. I joined the company about 8 months ago from the acquisition of Chorus in July. Started my career off as an SDR at Chorus a little over 2.5 years ago. I really found a deep passion for the product and just managing teams, and eventually made the transition to leading the Chorus SDR team. So, yeah.
Awesome. We're happy to have you here. We've got a Christelle and a Chris. We got two Chris's here. Chris number 2 or number 1. You can battle it out. I'll pass to you next.
Sounds good. Well, nice to meet everybody here. Great. This is an awesome topic to talk through today. So really excited. I'm at Ambition. We're sales performance management, coaching, and gamification for sales teams. So I've been in sales for about 10 years myself, about 5 years on the individual contributor side, both SDR, AE, and then I've been leading sales development teams for the last 5 years. So yeah, cold calling is near and dear to my heart. So excited to jump into the conversation today.
Wow, we've got all the expertise today. Very excited to have you both. And before we hop in, just some quick housekeeping notes. Yes, of course, this event is being recorded. You can share it with your colleagues. You can share it with your cousins. Anybody who's really into cold calling, you can send it to afterwards, and you will get it about an hour or 2 if I'm being really quick with my follow-up, and you'll be able to see this content forever. Second, we really want you to be super interactive. I know there's quite a few folks here today, a lot of interest in this event. I see some folks in the chat here. Use all of the emojis, put your questions in there. You can use the Q&A feature as well, but we really want this to be really interactive. Hype the Chris and the Christelle and the Taylor all up today. We love to see it, and we love to know that you're enjoying the content. So I got the little cowboy emoji. That's my favorite. Here's the agenda for today. First, we're going to dive deeper. We're going to dig into some insights that are going to help you find the right people at the right time. Then we're going to talk about impact and how to create those really authentic, engaging moments on the phone. We know that's very hard to do. And last, we're going to talk about coaching opportunities and how you can optimize those for your sellers. So let's dive right in. All right, we know there are so many ways to prospect nowadays between video and gifts, and you can go on LinkedIn, but really cold calling is not dead. There's an art and a science to it. And so let's get into this science piece. And we can't talk science without data. So Christelle, I'm going to pass to you first. What is the role of data in the cold calling process, and how do you leverage it on your teams?
Yeah, this is a great question. Leveraging all sort of up-to-date organization insights and intent data, truthfully, is crucial for any SDR doing outbound prospecting. It overall helps boost conversion and sales, and just arms sales teams and marketing teams with the right behavioral signals so that they can prioritize their accounts that are spiking on relevant topics. When you think about it, there are so many prospects out there right now that have a pain point, that are looking for a problem that you can solve. So with intent data, the way that I like to think about it is, one, you can identify early buyer interest. Two, you can then build a targeted account list. Sales teams have a massive territory, thousands of accounts that they want to target, but how do you know which ones really need your attention most? Three, you can personalize your initial outreach. And then four, you can prioritize those accounts with you by using unique outreach cadences, again, for the different topics that they are searching. The way that I like to think of intent data is, let's say you're buying a car. The first step is you do your research on that car. You might not be ready to buy a car. There could be something wrong with your car, but you're still researching for a car. You're looking at alternatives. You're comparing options. The second step is you confirm, okay, I don't like my old car. I need a new car. This could be you, your spouse, or a family member that wants a new car. But it is confirmed, all right, I need a new mode of transportation. And then the final step is, okay, you go to the dealership, you're looking at the cars through the window, but you're not exactly knocking on the door quite yet. So as a sales rep, the importance of having that data and the intent is, as a sales rep, to invite them in. Those are kind of the steps of the buying process. And sometimes, buyers are already all set before they even engage with a sales rep. So it's super, super important to get ahead of that process. And as an organization, to identify and prioritize and then customize outreach to those companies.
I love what you said about the buying process. Like, the buyer actually knows so much. We have so much information at our fingertips now that you kind of got to leverage your data with the data that they have. So I absolutely love that. Anything else? Any comments, Chris, before I pass it on to you?
Christelle, I'd be interested to hearing a little bit more on the insights. Just some of those insights that you're having bubbled up for your reps that just make those conversations more relevant for them.
Yeah, I think it could be something along the lines of whether it's a website visitor, someone on our website. Again, we don't know exactly who it is, but we know X account, or is searching conversation intelligence or sales coaching, or we know that there's some sort of need there. So again, the intent can fall under some different buckets of websites, scoops, just regular intent.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think, to tackle this question as well, I was just thinking, and this is definitely going to date myself, but when I was an SDR, it felt like cold calling was just blindly trying to get someone on the phone, maybe have good contact info, maybe you don't. And that can be certainly demoralizing as a new rep. So I love the fact that nowadays we have so much tech to make this such more worthwhile effort for an SDR or an AE in that matter. And so yeah, I think very similar to Christelle, we're bubbling up intent data, making sure that our reps have the right contact info. I think as leaders, that's some of the best things that we can do for our reps is making sure they're not wasting their time. They have that valuable insight. Because again, cold calling is already very difficult, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, I'm sure. But if you can bubble up those correct insights for them, steer them in the right direction, give them an account list, a targeted account list to go after, that's just going to, make their lives much, much more easier.
What about the tech stack for both of you? What helps you with gaining all of that data? Chris, you can start if you'd like.
Yeah, so just from top to bottom, we've got Salesforce as our CRM. Outreach is our sales engagement tool. So our reps are spending a majority of their time in outreach. As far as intent, we just recently went with 6 Sense as an intel platform that's helping us understand who might be currently in a buying cycle for tools similar to ours. And then we would, direct our reps towards those accounts specifically. One of the things that's really important, we certainly want to help our SDRs set more meetings. So that's certainly what the tool helps for, but also what we want is to set meetings with people that are in a buying cycle. So it's going to move that sales cycle along. Prior to some of that intent data, we were setting a lot of meetings, but we had a lot of people saying, hey, this looks like an awesome tool, but the timing is just off for us right now. Give us a call in 9 months. And certainly that, again, that doesn't help the business as a whole if you're creating pipeline that's not actually moving,
right
down the funnel.
Right. Interesting. Christelle, what about you? What's your tech stack looking like?
Yeah, ours is Salesforce, and then obviously ZoomInfo really provides my team with very up-to-date, contact information so that they're not, again, wasting their time on gatekeepers. They have, mobile numbers. And then within ZoomInfo, we also leverage intent. It is a part of their day-to-day process. So they'll get notifications for every single one of their accounts in their territory that is searching for conversation intelligence. Sales coaching really just allows us to get in front of them as soon as possible, and just overall, get the right person at the right company at the right time.
Oh, love it. Right. I have a question on data in terms of cold calling. So I've done a lot of moderation on so many different ways to prospect. And do you see a super advantage for the data that you're talking about when it comes in terms to cold calling versus other ways of prospecting, like video or gifts or things like that? Where are you seeing that data really come through for you in cold calling? I'll throw that in the air, a little jump ball, in case anyone wants to take that.
I would say we primarily use it most for cold calling. So my team is multi-channel, so we're utilizing everything pretty much. But I would say it's almost 60% of the meetings that we're setting are coming from phone conversations. And so getting right to the buyer and having that quick conversation, if you're doing it right, is super effective. And so while we're using all channels, that data and insight is really helping, mostly for us, geared towards phone conversations.
Awesome. Okay. Christelle, anything?
Yeah, something on the terms of data and cold calling, something that I found with my team in terms of you hear all the time, I'm not getting connects. I only had one connect today. Something that we do is we use data to track hours that we are having the most connects. For example, most of our calls that last over 2 minutes do occur actually between 9 and 10 a.m. Eastern on Tuesdays and 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. So like those are hours where we'll do an hour-long blitz, and we'll get the most success during those times.
Interesting. All right. Those are good. That's exactly the time I water my plants. I wonder if there's any correlation there. All right. Let's talk about, if there's nothing else, this next piece. We've got our science when it comes to cold calling. Let's talk about the art of it. So prospecting is tough. And I feel like, honestly, as a millennial, as someone who really avoids speaking on the phone at all cost, I can imagine that cold calling is even tougher in this market. So Chris, let's start with you. How do you see sellers really making an impact on their calls when it comes to that engagement piece?
I think the first and most important thing is just to enter a cold call with the right perspective. I think a lot of people, get really concerned and caught up with, trying to sell their product. And at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is build trust with another human enough so that they are going to let you, pitch or listen or take some kind of next step with you. And so I think that context is really important first, and that will inform how you coach and how you as a rep enter that call. And so certainly we want it to be relevant, but again, it's about making a human to human interaction. And so first off, when I coach my reps, we talk about a lot about tone and delivery. So certainly like the words that you say are important. And so we will have scripts for new reps, especially. But when we practice role playing and do that a lot, it's really about the delivery, because I always equate it to, and maybe this is different for other people, but when I walk into like a large gathering of people and I'm getting introduced to a number of folks, like what I'm really paying attention to is like body language and the tone of their voice. And that's why a lot of times I forget, like after I met multiple people, like, oh my gosh, what was their name again? Like I totally forgot the words that they said, but I really got a sense of who they are and what their body language was like. And I feel like for a buyer on a call, very quickly in that first, 20 seconds, what they're trying to understand is, do I know this person? Is this relevant to me? Like, at what point should I hang up? And so they're not always listening to the exact like words that you're saying. And so sometimes when reps belabor over, oh, should I say this word instead of this word? It's really, for me, it comes down to the tone and the delivery in that first 20 seconds. We'll talk a lot more about the words you're using in the middle of the call and closing out the call. But those are like a few things that are super important to me when we talk about, engaging someone in this quick interaction.
I love that. I also do the same thing. I have no idea what anyone's name is, but I'm also reading their body language, like if they're leaning in, if they're very confident. So I absolutely love that. Do you have a story of a time maybe you were on a cold call, like you were doing the cold call and you're like, I absolutely aced that. Like, here's my best tips, or someone who cold called you, or something that you observed from one of your sellers where you're like, A+.
I would say one of the most impactful cold calling scenarios for me was actually when I completely fumbled a call. So I called a VP of sales, and I did awful. It was bad. I got hung up on. And so my manager was asking me about like, what was your, toughest call today? And so I told him about it, and he said, well, let's go into a phone booth and call him again. And so this was probably like an hour after I just fumbled the worst call of my life. And he was making me call back the same person. And we game planned about, why did I mess that call up? And I was, a lot more prepared for the second time around. And then was just really human and broke the ice by saying, hey, John, This is Chris. I just called you a couple hours ago, and frankly, like, I did awful. Do you mind if I steal another like minute and and give you my pitch? And again, it's about human to human interaction. And that guy was like, absolutely, I've been training reps my whole life. Like, I'm happy to hear you out. And so that ended up in a demo set, and probably the one I felt the most proud of.
Wow. And I love that your manager coached you into that. Like, let's try it again. It's very human. It's that genuine connection that you're talking about. I love that story. Christelle, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, Chris, I love this is something I tell my team all the time. Just be human. I think it's so much easier to build rapport and a relationship when you're willing to show some personality and some humor. I also think some things that engage your prospects and actually keep them on the phone is like captivating that opening sentence. You really have about 15 seconds to make an impression and convince the prospect to stay on the phone with you and talk to you. And I think what's super, super important is to do your research before taking every sales call. It can be just a 2-minute LinkedIn scan, whatever it may be, but prospects are going to be more willing to listen to someone that knows who they're talking to. And you really just want to set yourself apart from, the 100 other SDRs that are calling that VP of sales. So know who you're speaking to. What does their role look like? What do they care about? And just really understand their persona. And then when you do have those 15 seconds, like an example could be of like complimenting them on something you found during their research, or even acknowledging that you're interrupting their day. And I think this will just really make people want to hear you out. And then, as the call does go on, the tone of your voice is super important. Your tone can really influence them into trusting you. It can convey confidence. Always make sure you're asking open-ended and engaging questions to help your prospect, be more engaged. Don't just like blast your pitch out. You want to make it about the prospect. Kind of tying back to the data piece, Taylor, with Chorus, actually, we have found that a majority of our meetings in scheduled resulted from asking 2 to 3 engaging questions during the call and having a good talk listen ratio. So you always want to aim for about, having a 60% to 40% talk listen ratio. This shows that you're speaking with the prospect. You're not speaking at them. You're not just going on long monologues. You're listening with empathy. You're active listening. So yeah, those are a few things that come to mind on just really how to have a successful cold call, keep them on the phone longer, and just build a relationship with your prospect.
That's amazing. I love the you're talking with someone, you're not talking at someone.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you how many times, I've been talked at before. I love that. We've got some great stuff in the chat that I think we should recognize here. So Jamie asked, do you have any tips to help SDRs reset their mindset to go into every call with a positive headspace? And then Danny said, it helps get a new perspective if I get that bombed call out with a friend or a mentor. Then we've got Jamie said again, let's, slipping out of that monotony, but maybe this will be a good segue for us to talk about these coaching opportunities. So Christelle, let's start with you. What are your tips for getting folks into a positive mindset right before they get on their calls?
Yeah. It's tricky. Cold calling can definitely be tricky. There's always going to be rejection. There's always going to be people that are going to hang up. But I think, like I said earlier, like doing your research and building the confidence that like you are picking up the phone, you know who you're speaking with to, you have an awesome product that is going to value that person. Something that I used to do when I was an SDR was I would have like a little ritual before, maybe play some music. I would have a little picture frame on my desk that reminded me of my goals and why I was doing what I was doing. And then just setting very digestible goals for the day. So, all right, I'm going to make 75 dials today. I'm going to optimize for 6 conversations and I'm going to win 3 of them. And like something to really work towards every single day. And evidently just, you're going to have mistakes. We're all human. And I think what really will set you apart is your ability to learn from those mistakes and get 1% better every single day and ask your manager for feedback on those calls where it wasn't your best call, or you didn't know how to handle this objection.
I love that. Learning from your mistakes sets you apart. I think that's what set Chris apart there in that example he used earlier. Chris, do you have any tips for resetting your mindset?
Yeah. A couple things I would say that have worked well for us. And I love Christelle's, like when I was a rep, I was definitely like trying to listen to some pump up music and remind myself of goals. So I love that. We've got like 2 team call blitzes every week, and they're 2-hour blocks. And one of the things that we'll do is, as a team, all get on a Zoom call together for about 15 minutes and essentially just I don't know, chat it up sometimes. Sometimes we talk about, hey, we've been hearing this certain objection the last couple of weeks. Let's just remind everybody, let's do a quick role play and remind everybody the best ways to get past that objection, and just get everyone in the right headspace for this upcoming call blitz. And so that's something that has worked really well for us. And then, certainly you're going to have those bad calls. And I always say, like, the best way to shake that off is just get on another call. And do your best to really shake it off. Everybody has maybe a different method to do that, but another conversation with a human being is the best way to get rid of the bad taste in your mouth from the last one.
Yes, love it. Great. Well, we talked about the science, we talked about the data, and I want to continue this conversation on kind of coaching and these learning opportunities. Christelle, what's your best tactics? I know you talked a little bit about those digestible pieces. I really love that. I think that's something I'm going to use for my events as well. What are some practices you have in terms of coaching your reps?
Yeah, collaboration is so important, and doing like not just a one-on-one coaching session, but doing a weekly film review with your team where everyone gets together for an hour in the middle of the week, and just share appropriate clips with your team and let the reps give each other feedback. Not only can they listen to how another rep is handling this objection, but they're not just getting their managers' input, they're getting other people's feedback as well. And then obviously weekly role plays are super, super important. I think a really good coaching opportunity for leaders, for managers too, is here's actually an example. So we're really focused on handling, pricing objections right now. So I can set up, a tracker where every time pricing is mentioned in a call, you can get a notification, so that it really allows you to pinpoint the exact moment where you need to step in and coach them on what they could have done differently, hold them accountable, and then just having that visibility into what they're actually saying. Where are they going wrong? How can we boost their conversions? How can we tailor our talk track? How can I course correct my script that I am giving the reps? I think as leaders, it's not just our duty to provide them with a cold call script, but more so to just give them constant coaching and training on how to improve those skills. And then I love, Chris, you mentioned like the weekly call blitz together, calling as a team together. Sometimes we'll post during that hour in our Slack channel, we'll post an update on the connects that we had, so that we can kind of share that link directly and be like, just got this meeting with the VP of sales. This worked really well for me. This talk track is working really well. And then people can just kind of, share their best practices and replicate that.
Awesome. Chris, I already saw you unmuted. Go ahead.
Well, I love, you talk about the art and the science. I love that, companies like Chorus are continuing to bring, the science aspect to these coaching interactions, which is so awesome. I would say too, just to add to this, I think one of the things I've tried to do so much for my team is create this culture where everyone on the teams feels comfortable sharing their call recordings and asking for feedback on those. If you've been a rep making calls, that you have some really cringeworthy recordings, right? Ones that you don't want anyone to hear. But at the end of the day, like what's really going to push your reps from maybe that, B or C player status to the A is that mentality of continuous improvement. And so, sometimes we'll have kind of our leaders on the team, reps that are typically making a lot of really quality calls. We'll actually have them post in the team chat, "Hey everyone, I feel like I just bombed on this call. Does anybody have any feedback for me?" And I feel like that's so powerful because one, especially since we're not all in the office together, sometimes some of our newer reps can think, "Oh man, Brian, he's leading on the team. He never has any bad calls." And so to see Brian share a really bad call recording, it helps those newer reps understand that, hey, wow, Brian's taking this mentality of he's leading the team and meeting set, but he wants to constantly get coached by his peers. And so I think that's something that's super important is being open to that feedback, creating a culture where that feedback is, goes both ways.
I love that. That established camaraderie is very important too. Amazing. That's all that we have. I'm hoping we get some more questions in. Does anyone have any more questions they want to ask? I know some folks are asking about alignment, if we want to answer that. But I'm going to give people like 2 more minutes. And while we're waiting for questions to come in, I'd love for both of our panelists to give us some key takeaways here. So I don't know if you have Twitter. I don't have Twitter. But if you had to tweet out a tweet length recap of your most important key takeaway today, what would it be? So maybe 1 or 2 sentences that really drive home the messaging you want folks to go home with today. Any volunteers first?
I could kick us off.
All right.
First one, sorry, let me think about this.
Okay.
Good information today. The first one is there's really no cold cut formula to cold calling and no like universal approach. One strategy that works for one cold caller may not work for another one. So it's super important to, one, work with your manager, work with your reps one-on-one, practice new techniques and approaches. And then 2, I think on the topic of like having up-to-date insights and intent, I think organizing your day-to-day workflow in that sense of, having intent, using it every day as part of your outbound strategy is super, super important for any SDR here doing an outbound role.
Amazing. I had alliteration too. That's definitely going in the key takeaways today. Chris, what about you?
I think to keep it short and sweet, I would say you should certainly lean into and intimately understand the science behind the cold calling and utilizing the data and the tools to their best ability, and then always be trying to improve the art. The art is the hard part, and it's something that you will never necessarily master, but like I think that's something that we'd all should strive for is getting better on the art side of things.
Love it. Someone, where are you? Lots of questions coming in. Brenda asked, can you share some examples of opening phrases or how you buy your first 20 seconds? I would love to hear that from both of you, especially given your key takeaways here. There's no cold cut formula. So Christelle, what's your formula for your first 20 seconds?
Yeah. Well, the very first opening sentence, something that I coach my reps on, is going in with confidence. So saying something like, hey, Taylor, this is Christelle from ZoomInfo. How have you been? So not saying, hi, is this Taylor? I think right off the bat, it shows them that you know who you're calling. Yeah, if it's the wrong number, you can make a joke out of it. But just going right into it and just being like, hey, Taylor, Christelle from ZoomInfo, how have you been? Also saying, how have you been instead of how are you kind of makes them think like, oh, do I know this person? Have I spoken to this person? And they'll just be receptive to hearing you out. So try it out. And then going into, hey, Taylor, I saw you're the VP of sales over at X or saw this on your LinkedIn that you're focused on coaching, whatever it may be. Curious to hear if and then you want to ask them, have you heard of Chorus before? So before just going into your pitch, check the level of familiarity right off the bat.
Love it. And I want to tag on to that because you already got me hooked. I'm ready to buy. Do you explain how you kind of found them? Because Brant is asking here, how do you explain to a prospect how and why you found them? Do you overtly explain that, or do you kind of snake around it?
Yeah, so looking at this question, so if it's intent data, this is a really interesting question, Brent, and a great question. I think an enemy of business intelligence is an assumption. So if you go into a call and say, hey, Brent, saw you were surging on call coaching, we should talk. That might not be the person to talk to. And again, I'm going to relate it back to the car analogy I gave earlier, but like, if it could be someone in your household that wants to buy a car, and if you call and talk to the daughter who's not in charge of the car and has no idea of what's going on in the car, she might not be interested. So instead, you want to do discovery. You can mention the intent. You can say something along the lines of, oh, I saw you might is a really powerful word, might be searching for sales coaching, and then do some discovery, ask an open-ended question. Hey, Taylor, how are you getting visibility into what your sales reps are saying on the phones today? And that will lead the conversation.
Yes, love that. Love that. Chris, I want to be sold to. What's your 20 seconds?
Yeah, so we always coach our reps on permission-based selling there at the beginning. So always open up and say, hey, Taylor, this is Chris giving you a call from Ambition. Realize that this is a cold call. I'm reaching out of the blue. Do you have 30 seconds? I can tell you the reason for the call. And, we primarily focus on selling to other sales leaders. And so typically they really appreciate that ask for permission at the beginning. They're used to getting cold calls. And so it feels pretty natural for them. So 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, Chris, give me what you got. And then right after that, that's typically where we go with the open-ended question. And again, at that point, it's nothing about our product, but it's around values that they may align with. So, are the things that are top of mind for you, holding your reps more accountable to their KPIs, getting your managers to coach more effectively, keeping your reps engaged, things that we know that they're going to resonate with. And it's almost like a trick question because they're like, well, yeah, of course I care about all those things. But then that opens the door for us to say, okay, well, knowing that you care about those things, can I tell you a little bit more about what we do in those areas? So that's typically how we open up the call.
I love that. That's awesome. I remember we were talking about prospecting at one of our past MSP events, and someone, can't remember who, brought up the idea of the rule of reciprocity. So you ask someone for their interest versus their time. It's like that value piece, right? like, here's how I'm going to add value to your life rather than just kind of selling to you up front. I think that's what you're getting to as well. What about I can't remember if you already answered this. Do you let them know how you found them, like that intent data? Are you sneaking around that or upfront about it?
No, we definitely, I think Christelle makes a great point. Like, you don't want to assume, because a lot of times, even if it was them searching for coaching tools, they might not admit it on a cold call where they don't know you, right? They're like, no, I wasn't looking for that. And so it's great to just kind of breeze past that. And a lot of times too, we will get those questions on, how did you get my info? It's like, you don't want to say it, but it's like, yeah, it's 2022. Like, your info is everywhere. So I don't think I should have to explain that.
Yes, I love that. And I think it segues really perfectly to what someone asked in the chat. And I'm going to rephrase the question a little bit, but where do you see the future of that cold calling, of that prospecting going, where there's so much information, and I can't imagine that it's going to lessen in the next couple of years. But if you had to make a prediction about the future, what do you think that would look like, and some best practices that you're kind of aiming for? I know that's such a curveball question, but I'm so curious.
Yeah, I'll take this one first. I think what's top of mind for me is kind of tailor a comment that you made earlier was around like, I typically don't pick up the phone, right? If I don't know who's calling, I don't pick up the phone. And so, I think that's certainly the mindset of a lot of folks. And so, one of the things that's top of mind for me is figuring out how we have a better understanding of kind of classifying people. So we know that we might have contact information for everybody, but let's like help bucket and understand who are phone picker uppers and who's never going to pick up the phone. Because if I was reaching out to Taylor, maybe my strategy is a little bit different. I'm going to send you a really crafty email and connect with you on LinkedIn. And that may be a more effective way to get in touch with you. Whereas, if we know someone's going to pick up the phone, our cadence or sequence looks a little bit different for them. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that fully answers the future question, but I think just getting more effective on figuring out who might pick up the phone is something that's certainly top of mind for me.
Yeah, that's a great point. Classifying people. No cold cut formula, right, Christelle? Anything you wanna pitch in on that?
Yeah, I think the future of cold calling, I think the way I think about it is, 10 years ago, the process that SDRs were doing then is completely different now. Like mass blasting emails and calls every day just simply isn't quite working anymore. So I think with all these incredible, like Chris said, it's 2022, you're going to get cell phone numbers. With all these incredible tools coming out, be adaptable, try new things, change up your talk track, A/B test your cold calls, your emails, what's hitting, what's not hitting, and just adapt everything as you go. But cold calling isn't dead. It's not going anywhere. There's just a lot more competition out there. So you always want to make sure you're setting yourself apart from everyone else.
Amazing. I think nothing else needs to be said. You just hit it right on the head. Cold calling is not dead. I would like to extend the biggest thank you. This is really fun, very informational for me, Chris and Christelle, and I'm really excited that you're going to have fun this summer at your weddings and your beaches. In the future, your beach weddings. I learned so much, and our audience was so engaged. That goes beyond anything when you're, moderating or when you're speaking and you see people hyping up in the chat and you're asking questions. That is really special to us. So thank you all for attending today. Thank you to Chris and Christelle for dropping all of your wisdom. Cold calling is not dead. And of course, thank you to Chorus Info for sponsoring. We're short and sweet today, so you got 15-ish minutes to, figure out how you're going to put all of these things into practice. Have a great Wednesday, everyone, and hope to see you on another event soon. Bye.
Thanks.